So my name is Victor Neves. On the sheet that some of the students who just walked in, you'll be reading this shortly. I'm versed in Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, and English. I'm the first person in my family to be born in the United States. I'm Portuguese and proud, and I'm honored to have the privilege of being your student government president. I think that having diversity at Tunxis is one of the things that makes us great. And having here in front of us these student panelists and Professor Bob Ron, welcome to the show. It is a really great thing, and it makes our college strong. Next, we have Becca. I'd like to introduce Becca Nowak.
Hi, I'm Becca Nowak. This is my second semester here at Tunxis. I am 50% Irish, 50% Polish, although I like to identify myself as Polish because my family on the Irish side I'm not so close to. But my father's parents grew up in Poland, met and moved to New Britain, where my aunt and my father were born. That whole side of the family speak Polish, so naturally I want to speak Polish, so I'm trying to learn that, so I feel obligated to. I am right now doing the Pathway to Teaching careers in hopes of being a special ed teacher one day to teach elementary students. Currently, I'm a substitute paraprofessional at Hanover Elementary School in Meriden, where I work with my little bundles of joy, 4 to 5-year-olds who range on the autistic spectrum. That's it.
Hi, my name is Tina Amador Ortiz. I am second generation on my mother's side of the family. Sorry, let me start again. They're from Puerto Rico. So I am second generation on my mother's side of the family and first generation on my father's side of the family here in the States. It's been a conflict, I felt, as my identity, only because as each generation goes on, it kind of waters down the traditional aspects of our culture. I only speak Spanish if I'm spoken to. I'll respond back, but that's not my primary language. Even foods, I usually more Americanized foods versus the rice and beans, the meat and a little salad on the side. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ahmed. I was originally born in Bosnia. It was during a very tough time for our country. It was between 92 and 95 when the massacre happened. So it was in the midst of a war. I came here in 2001. I actually came here. I was in New York the night before 9/11. We actually landed in Connecticut on the 11th in the morning. It was like 3 a.m. And I woke up as a little kid, like a 10-year-old kid, and I'm watching this stuff on the news, and I thought it was a movie or something. I really didn't know what was going on. So that wasn't the welcoming that I thought that we all wanted. But nonetheless, it's been a great experience so far. I've had the opportunity to go to school, to have and enjoy a lot of the things that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to back home. And as Sina just mentioned, we're also trying to preserve our culture as much as we can. Because it is difficult not to get it watered down to an extent where it kind of diminishes over time, and I've noticed that it happens to a lot of cultures here because of my friends who are from different countries or their parents are, and now at this point, 2 generations down the road, they don't have anything to really hold on to anymore. So I've formed a nonprofit organization like 4 or 5 months ago with a couple of my friends who are also all college students, and what we're basically doing, it's called BAYAH, B-A-Y-A-H, which stands for Bosnian American Youth Association of Hartford. And our goal is basically to reach out to the community, to try to preserve our cultural differences. And then we've also had different events where we've done like winter clothing drives for the homeless people of Hartford. We've had recently like a diversity thing where we were basically making our cultural foods. There's some of the girls that are part of the group who still have the skill, or they've attained it from their parents, from their mothers, and we actually spent the entire day just making different foods, and I had the opportunity to also participate in that and be able to get my hands in there, and it really makes you appreciate a lot more what like our parents do for us. So that being said, we should continue.
And I'm Bob Brown. I'm professor of English and history, and I'm the one who got confused. So, and I apologize to my students. I will tell them I do have your exams graded, and if you follow me after class, then some of you will be very happy. I'm also the absent-minded professor. My role here is to be the aging white male, and it's a role that I'm increasingly playing very well. So. And my apologies to both my students and to the rest of the people who are here, including the panelists. I guess what I'd like to do is just to start off and ask a very broad question about your perception of Tunxis as a place where diversity is accepted, embraced, tolerated, whatever you would choose to say about it. And I think probably the best place to start is down at the other end of the picture. And if you have things you want to jump in, raise your hand, and the microphone will be passed to you. But we can start with Victor, certainly.
Thank you, Professor. Now that things are a little bit more normal and we know what's going on, because we were doing a little bit of an impromptu discussion before that. Again, I'm Victor, I'm Portuguese, I love Tunxis. So, part of the experience of being American that I've noticed, and I often talk about, like Tina touched upon, I think there's a lot of watering down that happens, and a lot of people can lose a sense of their cultural identity. Some people prefer to say that they're American. Some people say, oh, well, I'm half American, half Italian, or half American, half French or Portuguese. But myself, I grew up, I was the first person born in my family in the United States, and that carries a lot of weight with me. I have, I think, as of last week, 7 cousins and one sibling. So I have a lot of people looking up to me. I have my sister's right over there. She just smiled at me. So in my family, I want to carry that. I'm the only one that speaks Portuguese very well. And it's kind of sad because my grandfather was herding sheep in Portugal. And I have the opportunity to go to college, to get a good job, and to make something of myself. And these are opportunities that they would have strived for, they would have loved to have had. You know, there's a saying, there's a little joke, a person who speaks 4 languages is quadrilingual. A person who speaks 3 languages is trilingual. A person who speaks 2 languages is bilingual. And a person who speaks 1 language is American. So, I didn't want to be like that growing up, and I made that decision a long time ago. And I'm very proud of my culture, and I hope that all of you can at least reach out, ask questions to your family. They all love you and want you to know about your past and where your roots are. I'll pass the mic on to...
Before you do so, talk about your experience at Tunxis within the context of diversity.
Okay. Well, how so, Professor?
That's up to you.
Within the context of
Diversity, yeah. Have you felt embraced? Have you felt that your cultural heritage is understood and acknowledged? Have you felt as if it was a benefit to you here or a hindrance? Because one of the things that the purposes of this panel discussion, I hope, is to point out similarities across differences. So.
Absolutely, I felt embraced. Unfortunately, they don't offer Portuguese. They offer that other Iberian language, Spanish, Professor Salona. But that's okay. It's similar. But absolutely, I have friends at Tunxis that I've made throughout the 3 years that I've been here, and I've got Black friends, Hispanic friends, Italian friends, and everywhere in between. And I definitely feel like Tunxis is a place where anybody can come here and get a great education and feel welcome. I've never really seen any kind of prejudice or meanness or hatred toward one another. Obviously, I can't empathize with somebody who may be from a different ethnic background, but I hope that that's true with everybody. Dave, do you have any?
My experiences with diversity here at Tunxis have been wonderful. I get to meet people from pretty much all walks of life. I could have conversations about things that I really would not have conversations about with any of my other friends. I get to meet people who are part of the LGBTQ society and learn more about how they experience life and realize we're not too much different. I get to have a conversation about Islamic banking with a Muslim. I get to find out that people who just have a different skin color but share the same interests as me, same lifestyle as me, end up getting treated unfavorably, unfortunately. So my experience with diversity has been wonderful here. I get to get a sampling of America, all the best parts of it, and unfortunately some of the worst parts of it, in one place. I really embrace diversity, and I think it's something that can be really treasured with the right attitude, with respect, and with openness.
I never got a chance to introduce myself. My name is Emerson. I go by male pronouns. I am a transgender man. And so in reference to diversity with the LGBT community, I haven't actually seen much tolerance in reference to transgender people here. I have been treated very unfairly here in the past. For the GSA bulletin board, we have experienced vandalism there. So in some respects, yes, Tunxis is very diverse and very accepting, but in a lot of respects, it's not. And we need to find better ways to handle things like this.
Hello. Would you say that there's a distinction between the way you're treated in the formal academic environment and the way the things happen perhaps when people aren't looking?
I think it's more when people are not looking. Like, people will be okay with you to your face, but then you hear about things going on behind your back, or you hear their comments as soon as you turn around, and I can hear them. And it really does hurt a lot. And like I said, some respects, transgender people are respected, but a lot of the times they're not. But the same thing happens in the media and everything, so it's going to take a really long time for people to get that into their heads. But I think we've made a big difference from the past.
Thank you. Mishalle?
I just want to apologize that if you've ever faced any sort of difficulty like that. I know that it's very hard for people to find representation in the trans community, and I think that's a shame. But if you ever, need a safe person to talk to, you can absolutely come talk to me. Mishalle. I kind of go back and forth with the diversity of Tunxis, because if you look out in the audience, you can see many different types of diversity, different faces, cultures, backgrounds. I'm sure there are tons of different languages that people speak, different countries people come from, and I think that is something to be treasured. I think diversity is something that we should take more seriously and that we should appreciate more in American culture. But I do, on some note, disagree that Tunxis is 100% a safe place. I think physically a lot of us are safe here. I think emotionally not a lot of us are safe here. I personally haven't dealt with bullying in a sense. I think that's somewhat of a high school experience, but I have had people directly say things to me about my gender or about my sexuality just in question, and I don't think that people say things that they intend to be harmful, but I think that the way that people present their questions or present their opinions can be harmful here. I've had people quite honestly I'm an English tutor, and I've had people not want me to tutor them because I'm a woman. I've had people who have come to me with essays talking about the superiority of men in society and how women should stop pushing for equal representation. I've had a number of really confusing interactions with people, not so much in a matter that they are hateful, but in a matter of ignorance. And I think that is a big problem that the student body of Tunxis has, is just not the need to hate people, and I think the people at Tunxis are genuinely kind, but I think there is instances of ignorance when it comes to language and how specific words can be said to people that can unintentionally be extremely harmful. When people ask me different questions about my relationship with my girlfriend, they can be extremely awkward because their relationships, they're questions that I know would not be asked to someone who was straight. And I know that people are curious, but there's Google. You don't have to ask me. And I think that that's definitely something that people need to be more aware of, is specific questions about my identity and the identity of others, especially people who are minorities, really shouldn't be asked to their face unless you have some sort of rapport with that person and you know that this is something, you know this person intimately, you know that it's okay and appropriate to ask a specific question. But if you don't know this person, or if you don't have a friendship with this person, you really shouldn't be asking questions that are intimate. You really shouldn't be asking people about their relationships with their girlfriend or boyfriend, or about their sexuality, about their gender. You really shouldn't be asking those things unless you know this person enough and that you know that it's an appropriate question in this scenario to ask them.
I should also say that Mishalle is a budding young poet, not an aspiring poet of some power. In last year's Otto, our art and literary magazine, I think she was the only person who had 3 poems published. So, and I haven't seen the entries this year, but I'm looking forward to them. Just to skip down and touch base with everybody, but Becca, I'd like to get you to weigh in because you deal with you want a career dealing with students who are developmentally challenged. Can you offer any perspective? Can you offer anything from your perspective on that particular issue at Tunxis? Students with disabilities, the students you might find yourself working with.
So far at Tunxis, I haven't been able to interact, so to speak, with many physically or mentally disabled people, but so far the couple that I have, it's been pretty positive, and I've been able to use my experiences from years past to interact with them and not make them feel like I'm belittling them, that I'm actually, I just want a regular conversation with them. I want more experience, more interaction with them, but I just haven't had the chance yet.
Thanks. Tina, you're
I didn't mention my age before.
no, yeah, you also are Puerto Rican born in this country.
Right.
So, and if you would care to talk about being that Puerto Rican born in this country, or if you want to talk about your age, that'd be okay too.
We'll talk about both. So to kind of tie into the diversity that I see at Tunxis, like Mishalle stated, we all are different shades, different genders. So yes, we are very diverse. As far as age, it starts to kind of minimize a little bit. I'm 29 years old. Many of you are just coming from high school. So we have a whole different mentality. So I don't find myself really conversating with many people. I mean, unless we're in class and the teacher is directing us to. So I haven't experienced any personal wrongdoing from anyone. So being a Puerto Rican in this country, like I mentioned before, it's a identity conflict because, parts of you want to still embrace that culture, but everywhere around you is pretty much telling you you have to strip it, especially if you want to excel. I don't even celebrate Three Kings Day. And many places in Connecticut don't even have that day off. So can you imagine if I did celebrate it? I have children, I'm a mom, so there goes another conflict. I try to teach my kids Spanish, but it's hard because the homework is in English, everything's in English, TV's in English, books are in English, and at some point they're like, Mom, just give it up. let's just talk English. It's easier for them. So it's definitely harder to keep the culture alive being in America. You can always tell the difference in the way that I speak Spanish compared to ones that are in Puerto Rico. And they can tell you right off the bat, oh, she's American.
I do have a question though. I mean, you also have 3 children. You're a bit older. What challenges do those differences present? Do you think that they force you to have a different schedule, perhaps, than your younger classmates who don't have children?
Absolutely.
How do you manage the balance? Because one of the themes that emerged last year was a lot of people in our audience were people who were single moms.
Right.
So, how does that impact you, and how do you adjust?
It's very tiring. A lot of coffee, Red Bull, 5-hour drinks. It's exhausting. I trying to manage to be a mother, a good mother. I work 3rd shift. I'm a phlebotomist at St. Francis Hospital. So it's a lot of sacrificing on my body, only because, like I said, I have to stay up. I have to have energy. 2 of my children have autism, so I do this for them, kind of to try to get them ready for society. That's another reason why it's hard for me to teach them in Spanish, because they have a lot of barriers. Besides just the autism, like just a lot of barriers ahead of them. So it's difficult. A lot of very strict scheduling on my behalf in order to squeeze everything in, including my personal life.
Ahmed, the same question to you. You're a Bosnian Muslim, I believe, and how have you found Tunxis from the perspective of what you bring to the college?
I think this panel is actually living proof that we do care. That the Tunxis does care, and the fact that we're all sitting here is a great example that we are trying to improve. As we can see, everybody has different issues that they're dealing with, and unfortunately, not everybody's going to change. Individuals will have their individual thoughts and the way that people think. So I don't think race and prejudice is ever going to be completely diminished. As much as that hurts me to say, but I think it's a fact that once we all acknowledge it, then it'll be a lot easier for us to deal with our problems. Tunxis personally, just walking into hallways and seeing the different flags, it's very comforting. When I see the country of my flag, it makes you feel good, even though it's a very small gesture, but it means a lot. So I think that we're taking great steps towards this equality and towards everybody feeling safe and welcome, and I personally do. Since day one, I've been welcomed. Allison McCarthy has been a great influence on me. She actually took me in. She was the director of admissions here when I first came here, and she helped me out with everything. I'm also a first generation college student. I wasn't born here, like I said earlier, so it was a great transition to come here. But Tunxis has been very helpful to me. They've done everything that they can. The faculty was great. I've had you as a professor before, and I very enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. So, like I said, I think we're taking the right steps. It's going to take a lot of effort and from everybody collectively, but we also have to keep in mind that some things will never change, and we have to accept that. Maybe sometimes down the line, but I don't think in a lifetime a lot of things will be the way that we want it. And people will always have negativity, no matter what you do, no matter what kind of person you are. There will be people that like you, there will be people that don't like you, and there will be somebody in the middle. And I think our job as individuals is very great, that we have to take the positives and kind of ignore the negatives. Because not everything in life is going to go our way. I'm sure we've all experienced this stuff one way or another. So I think it's important to personally, as an individual, to stay strong, to stay positive, to give back, be a positive influence, and then let the rest play itself out. Because unfortunately, we don't have all the control or total control of everything. So.
Question for the whole panel. Just you can raise your hand here. How many of you are first generation college students? How many of you are not? Okay, interesting. How many of the audience are first generation college students? How many of you have parents who went to college? Okay, we got pretty much a roughly even divide here. And I think I want to focus on the ways in which the background from which you came educationally might shape your perception of higher education in general. Becca has her hand up.
For me, going to college was not a question, it was mandatory, and even though it wasn't spoken, I was expected to go to college. My parents never asked me, so do you think you're going to college? They always expected me to, because they went to college, and both of my grandparents on my father's side and my mother's side, they went to college. So it wasn't a question of if I was going to college, it was where I was going to college and how many years and what I wanted to be. So I think that had a big role on how I viewed college. I never liked it when my friends said, oh, I don't want to go to college, it's not for me. I think college is for everybody. You just have to find where you fit in, whether it's a 4-year, a 2-year, even a trade school. I think everybody fits in. Even first generation college students. Your parents didn't go to college, but you had the motivation, whether it was friends motivated you, your job that you wanted to go into motivated you. It just all depends on that.
Okay, who among us held their hand up and said that they are first generation? Let's see, why don't you, Tina, talk about that from your perspective.
So my father's side of the family, I was the first generation born here. My grandmother was illiterate. She didn't speak, write, or read. She was more of like a country girl in Puerto Rico. So kids were born to take care of the land, feed the family. So they never felt the need to learn. And then when she came over here, that's when I think my father was already in his 20s. So it was almost like too late, I guess he thought. I don't know. And then from my mother's side of the family, my grandmother was an orphan. So she had a lot of issues with stability, and it kind of presented in my mother. So then led to me. I didn't really have anybody to show me like this is what you need to do and this is what's expected. It was more of me learning from what I don't want in life. And that's how I was able to say, I'm gonna finish high school and I'm gonna go to college.
Hey, Victor, you said your father was what was the phrase you used to describe him? A sheep herder?
My grandfather.
Grandfather, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, talk about being first generation in your environment. And then we'll get to the ones who are second generation or more.
Of course. Well, with my family, it's interesting. My grandfather, like I said before, he herded sheep and he worked as a mason his whole life. He's still alive and lives in Bristol now. My grandmother, she is the smartest woman around. You show me a person that has a PhD and you put her up against my grandmother and my grandmother's going to win. 10 times out of 10. She only got a 3rd grade education in Portugal. But I think the amount of things that she learned, save for maybe geography, it's amazing. I think education was thought of more as a privilege back then, certainly more than it is now, because there's a lot of students that I see going around at Tunxis that go through the motions and don't really care, and that's disappointing. But with regards to myself and my family, I went through the education system in Region 10, which is Burlington, which is nothing like some of the schools, let's say in New Britain or Harlem or any other kind of city like that. My school was predominantly white. And it was weird for me because I don't identify at all as Hispanic or Latino. I'm also obviously not black or any other kind of minority. And it's weird because Portuguese and Spanish from Spain, I don't know where we really fit in. Italians, I think most of you Italians in here would identify as white, but I'm not white. So what am I? It was a question that is still ongoing, I think. And growing up, speaking Spanish and Portuguese at home, I had to make sure that I also grew up speaking English proficiently, and I do. And the reason that is because unfortunately, when I was in school, I used to have a bit of an accent when I spoke. So they pulled me aside and took me into classes, and I would spend a quarter of my time in school in these classes so that I could speak. I had trouble pronouncing my R's like this. I would say R, you know, and I would roll my R's, and it was messy. But you know, now that I'm 20, about to turn 21, reflecting, looking back, yeah, it's great that I speak English, you know, perfectly, and it's great that I was able to maintain that those high levels of proficiency with the other languages. But I also feel like what Tina touched upon is true. It's very difficult, especially for any kind of Spanish speaker, whether it's, you know, a Portuguese person speaking Spanish or anything. I have seen the prejudice through the school system up until here. I don't see it as much here because I think that we're treated as adults, and I think that it's acknowledged that there are other cultures and it's something to be respected. But definitely growing up, being picked on for speaking other languages, it was tough, and I didn't know why, but I was made fun of for being the Spanish kid or the Portuguese kid. Now I'm proud of it, but when you're going through school, especially as a minority, or rather being a minority among whites, it was very strange to me, and I think I can sympathize with what you mentioned.
And now to the people who had that were our second generation at least. I should tell before I turn to them that I fall into an interesting category, and the aging white male. And I'm also what you might call first generation non-college, because my mother graduated from a junior college, which is community colleges before they existed. My father graduated from a Roanoke College in Roanoke, Virginia. I went to college. My son didn't graduate from college, and so I bring a different perspective there too. I think that I can understand perhaps better because of my son's decisions, the struggles that some of our students go through when they do seem to be relatively disengaged. So that's sort of my perspective on that. But you know, Emerson.
I grew up in two different households because my family was divorced, but my dad, he went to college and everything. He actually works for NASA, so it was totally expected of me to go to an Ivy League school. But given my gender identity and how I was bullied throughout high school, I had wicked depression, so I didn't do as well in school as I maybe could have. But I also had my stepfather at my other house. He didn't go to college, but he was doing okay for himself. So then combining these two viewpoints, I was able to make the decision that I do not regret at all was coming here, because it also saves a lot of money, and I think it's just a better investment in the long run to start at a community college. And while my father was very disappointed in the beginning, I also know that this is how it's going to work out, and I think it's going to work out for the better.
Yeah, pass it on down to David. That's fine.
The question again is?
It deals with, I'm looking for the perhaps impact on you of the fact that you either were or were not first generation college, and you are not. You have, yeah, okay, so talk about how that has shaped your perspective and your experience.
My mother graduated college in Puerto Rico with a degree in accounting. My father has an associate's degree from here. I am fortunate enough and completely blessed to have parents who didn't really care what I did with my life. They were supportive of everything. If I wanted to drive a big rig, they were fine with it. If I wanted to become a plumber, they were fine with it. If I wished to get an MBA from Harvard Business School, they were fine with it. They loved me regardless of what. I think there are many paths to success. I think some people need to go to college. They have too much brain power to be wasted. But I also believe that some people have other skills that our current educational system does not foster. And I believe, and there's people who are very successful who have not gone to college. Richard Branson has 2 learning disabilities. The guy's a billionaire. Bill Gates, college dropout. Mark Zuckerberg, college dropout. Steve Jobs, college dropout. So my parents unconditionally loved me and supported whatever decision I make. And I think everyone will have a different path to their own success and happiness.
I think Zuckerberg, I think he had good reason to drop out because he was on his way to being not just a millionaire, but a billionaire when he did. So, but in any event,
Well, Harvard has a unique policy that if you drop out, you can go back at any time in the future.
I'm sure he will.
I just wanted to sort of address something that Vic said. I have a very similar experience. I'm half Polish and half Puerto Rican, and I really don't know how to identify myself. I have friends who are fully white. I have friends who are fully Puerto Rican or who are from any sort of background, and they are 100% or 75%, something that consumes their identity. I even have a friend who is half white and half Puerto Rican, and you could never guess that she's half white. So she always identifies as Puerto Rican. And I think that's very difficult for me because when you look at me, you don't see that I'm Puerto Rican. And that's hard for me because I feel very connected to different cultures within the Puerto Rican identity, and I would like to explore them more, but it can be hard because I almost feel like it's duplicitous of me. I feel as if I'm trying to be part of something that it doesn't seem like I belong in. I don't even speak Spanish. I don't look Puerto Rican. It can be hard to try and find an identity within a culture that is A, a minority in America, B, is an oppressed minority in an American culture. And I think that it's hard to say, oh, I want to be part of this identity, but it's difficult because I don't want people to think that I'm just fishing for ways to be different. And I think that that's definitely something that I struggle with. I know it's something that my little brother struggles with. And on that note, it's you can see the differences in privilege in my parents. My mom went to college, and she teaches at college, and she's continuing to go to college while she teaches at college. My dad, on the other hand, did not go to college. So again, I'm split down the middle. It's hard because in a way that my parents were like, you don't need to go to college, but you should go to college. You're never going to succeed without college, but you don't need to go to college. And it was a weird decision for me to go to community college because I didn't want to. I wanted to go to a four-year university, and I wanted to go with my friends, and I wanted to have a college experience, and it didn't happen. It couldn't have happened. I was not ready to go to a four-year university, but I do think that with the roadblocks that Tunxis might have, and with some of the difficulties that individual students face on a day-to-day basis, it is an amazing place to rebuild yourself. It does give people an opportunity to get to the place that they wanted to go. I know that I'm going to leave and I'm going to go somewhere that I want to go to. Though I didn't get there right away, I still have this opportunity. And if people are ever doubting what they want to do with their lives, or if they're ever doubting who they are, or if they should follow in this parent's path or this parent's path, because both of my parents professionally are extremely successful, just one went to college. I think that Tunxis is definitely a place that sort of fosters people's motivation, and it fosters their creativity. And I definitely think that people should take Tunxis seriously for that reason, because it's not just a place to stop. For many people, this is their one road, and this is where they're going to end, and they're going to get their associate's degree, and they're going to go off and work, and that's absolutely fine. Like, kudos to those people, but kudos to those of you who are really looking to continue their education. And I think that that's what's really amazing about Tunxis, is that you can find people getting a certificate or a degree, or they're non-matriculated, or they're taking incompletes, or they're not even getting a grade, or there's so many opportunities for you to do so many different things here. And I think that's very true to the type of people that you can find here. We're a very diverse school, and I think that we offer very diverse education because of it.
A former dean at Tunxis, briefly dean of Academic Affairs, Scott Speaker, once observed that the typical Tunxis student is an exception. And I think that sort of captures the spirit of the institution. We do have people here who have unique and exceptional circumstances, and I'd like to open it up to people in the audience, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have observations, please raise your hand and feel free to share. Don't be shy. My students will get extra credit. No. You are shy. Go for it.
I just wanted to say I'm a second generation college student as well, and it's very interesting going to Tunxis personally because my mother, she went to college as I was graduating high school, and a lot of the faculty here know me by my mother, so it's very interesting in that aspect, and it's a really unique experience.
Anyone else? Come on, hands up, hands up. I've got the microphone. You can be heard now.
I can level with being an older student. I worked in a completely different industry than what I'm going into for many years, and that's pretty much it. So I'm continuing my education for something completely different, so I understand what it's like to feel like I don't fit in, although I don't know.
Where did you work? What industry?
Fitness.
Okay. Now you want to do,
Yeah.
you're getting an associate's degree to go into construction.
My mom owns construction.
Ah, you're going to run it.
No.
Okay, okay. We'll have your hand up back here.
I am a second generation college student. My mom she went right out of high school, she went right to Central, and she got her, what's one below doctorate? Master's. So she got that, but my dad never went to college. He finished high school barely, so I definitely get the whole confliction thing. Because my dad was like, you don't have to go to college, but you should. And my mom was like, you have to go to college. There's no option.
A story about my family. My wife did not go to college. Well, she started, she didn't finish. But I can remember my father driving myself and my fiance at that time, wife-to-be, and my two sisters to visit my grandparents. And he started talking about how well my wife had done in her life, and she didn't go to college, and boy, you can succeed without going to college. And I thought, okay, I know what game he's playing here. He's directing this message to my sisters. And he turned to my wife and said, well, isn't that correct? And my wife said, I would give my right arm to have graduated from college. So that's her perspective. Others want to speak? Have something on?
I'm actually a third generation on both sides to college, which is insane. I feel a bit of a minority here. I'm a student with Asperger's who's also Jewish, who is also a lesbian, so a lot of diversity here, and I've definitely found myself immersed in so many things that I never experienced in high school. I went to a private therapeutic school, which was, mostly white. So this is a huge experience for me. I found just a whole bunch of friends that I never thought I'd had here, and it's just amazing. I never thought I'd actually graduate high school, so here I made it, and it's amazing.
Thank you. I saw another hand back here.
My question is actually directed to the gentleman from Bosnia, more so from the religious aspect. Professor mentioned that you were Muslim. In this country right now, there's obviously a lot of negative connotations towards the Muslim religion, and I just wanted to know how that aspect of your life has been here at Tunxis versus out in the real world or the regular part of society.
Hey, Ahmed, I'll bring the mic back to you. The front of the room regains control.
Well, I was kind of hoping somebody would ask that question, to be honest. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult for many reasons. First and foremost is because a lot of the stuff that's going on in the mainstream media, I mean, it literally has very, very, very little to do with the teachings of the religion. As a student of religion as well as a student of life, I can, testify that, taking anybody's life for any reason, taking your own life, is completely forbidden in our faith. So anybody who claims to kill somebody in the name of Islam is completely, there's two options. Option A, they have misunderstood the religion, or option B, they're fakes. Like basically they don't have the faith, within their hearts, because our religion teaches in the Quran, it says that that if you save a life, it's as if you've saved all of humanity. And if you take an innocent life for any reason whatsoever, it is as if you have killed entire humanity. I'm still constantly I go through this, within my heart, within my mind, and I try to find reasons to put this stuff together, because there's so much controversy going on in the world, and there's so much unknown, and the conspiracy theories, and I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but I feel like there is a lot of stuff going on that we don't really know. You know what I'm saying? Like, and anybody who claims to be part of Islam or to call themselves Muslim but doesn't act on the teachings is, it will be as if I say, okay, you know what, we're best friends, I'm your friend, and I come up to you every day and I smack you in the face, right? Nobody would believe you, correct? Same way, if somebody claims to be a part of a faith, but they do the contrary of the faith, they can call themselves whatever they want. But in reality, does that really represent Islam or the Muslim community? No. There's over 2 million Muslims in America, almost 2 billion in the world. You would think that if it was a barbaric religion that people perceive, that the media puts it out to be, what would I be doing? What would I be doing here? Or anybody else? The fact of the matter is, it was broad. The religion was broad in a time of ignorance, and as Muslims, we believe that prophets have been sent throughout time, to different nations. We believe in Jesus, peace be upon him, as a mighty messenger of God, and this is just our belief, and we don't deny that. We don't deny his miraculous birth to the Virgin Mary, and this is just what we stand, and I feel like everybody should know this. And there's actually people who burn the Quran for whatever reason. There's actually a whole chapter that's dedicated to the mother of Jesus, Mary. It's called Maryam. So all this stuff is there's a lot of ignorance in the world. To answer your question, sir, I try to ignore it for the most part. I try to lead by example. I try to be the person that I know that I should be, morally and religiously. So I think it was just important for me to mention that whatever is in the mainstream media should be questioned. That's my personal opinion, because I know the religion that I live and that I believe in and that I learn about on a daily basis and that I teach to others is completely it's completely different from what is put out there. And I get confused, just like everybody else gets confused about certain things. I'm also very, very confused as to where the stuff comes from.
Just a follow-up question. Do you find that when you're moving in the world at large, the world beyond the campus, that your reception is different or similar to the one that you received when you're at Tunxis?
I've honestly never came across anything particularly here at Tunxis that I can actually think of where somebody might have looked at me the wrong way or anything of that nature. But I think it's more of a global thing where I start to kind of feel like, okay, well, is this person looking at me a weird way because of my name or because of my beard or whatever the case may be? And I question that. I think about this stuff, but at the same time, I don't let it affect my actions. I don't let it affect what I want to do in life and what I want to accomplish, and me giving back or me being a good person. Because if I was to let that affect me, then in reality, what would I be? Am I going to let somebody else's thought influence me, negative thoughts, or am I going to just continue to stay on the path that I know is right and then continue to be the best person that I can be, give back as much as I can, and make sure that nobody is harmed? In Spain, Spain was under Islamic rule for almost 800 years, where there were mosques, churches, and synagogues all right next to each other. So anybody who claims that religions can't coincide has not either looked at history or they're just completely oblivious or ignorant to religion to begin with.
Okay, this is the next set of questions I'd like to address to the group. I guess my question is this. We come from different places. We all have our uniqueness, that thing which makes us different. Or perhaps it's the blend of our qualities that make us unique. My question is basically this. Has Tunxis helped you to grow and develop as a person who has unique abilities, strengths, skills, and also unique needs? And how could it do better? Yeah, let's start with Ahmed and go down the line. Well, back and forth.
I think I've grown a lot since I've been here, to be honest. Going through high school, a couple of people have made mention that the school system, the high school system is structured in a way where you don't really have too much freedom to kind of explore what you want to do or who you want to be. There's these general courses that we take, and we're all kind of following this blueprint of what we should do. And it's only after we get to college that we kind of start to figure out what we want to do. So when I first got here, I was actually under the impression that I couldn't write a 5-paragraph essay without the introduction. Like, I was under the impression that I had to write the introduction, have a thesis statement, and then base my whole entire paper on that thesis. And when I came here, I believe it was Professor Witt who, Jennifer, yeah, who forced me in a way to write a body paragraph of an essay without an introduction, and I was gonna cry. I'm like, I don't know what to do. It was just complete, like it was a block in my brain that I just could not figure it out. And slowly but surely, she kept encouraging me, and then I figured out that it was actually much better to actually write out a paragraph, your ideas, and then base your thesis on your whole paper, rather than having to base your whole entire paper without crossing the boundaries of a thesis statement of a single line.
In fact, you learned that you don't have to write 5-paragraph essays too. Yeah.
That as well, yeah. It could be 6 or 7 or 10 or so on.
Okay. Let's see. Tina.
So elaborating on writing, because I'm a returning student. When I first started at Tunxis, it was out of high school, and the subjects that I was writing, I had no connection with. I was writing, but I really almost didn't understand what I was writing. I got it done. Now as a returning student, when I write, because I've been out in the real world, it's just an intense connection. I don't know how to explain it. I'm more passionate about what it is that I'm writing.
Would you think that your experiences with life have made you a more thoughtful person?
Absolutely.
Okay. Emerson, why don't you, and then remember the question was, has the Tunxis helped you to grow in your uniqueness, and if so, how, and what could we do better?
So I've definitely grown a lot. I was actually here the first semester right after high school, and then I had to take a 2-year break because I had to make a choice between a roof over my head and school. So that being said, coming back was a huge decision to make, and I was very happy to come back. And I've been noticing a bunch of differences between my first semester here and my second and third semesters here. For example, my first semester here, I was quiet. I didn't talk to anyone. I maybe had 2 friends, and it was very similar to high school in that people were still talking behind my back and everything, and I was pretty much hiding and trying to be invisible. But then I came back, and I was more confident in knowing what I wanted to do, so I came in here with a straight back, chin up, everything like that, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna totally rock all of my classes. And I ended up meeting some really awesome people, and by meeting those people, I have created the strongest friendships. I have become a much better person than I was before, and it has turned me into a much better person. And while I have a really great group of friends, there are still some people who have that, remind me of high school, who talk behind my back, and I see the looks and hear the comments. But because I have my group of friends, I don't let it bother me. And because I have my group of friends, I have grown a lot.
And you have rocked your classes.
I have. I'm currently getting straight A's.
Yeah. Let's see, who to go to next? Victor.
So the question again, Professor?
The question is, we all come here, you are all collectively and individually unique. It's their life experiences, your circumstances, where you came from, that have made you different one from another. And my question is, how does Tunxis help you to build on your uniqueness? And if we have not done enough, what else could we do?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question, but I'll try and answer it.
Well, feel free to take a shot if you want to.
I will. Thank you. I don't think that the amount of growth that I've had at Tunxis is related at all to my ethnicity or my culture. I think it's a personal thing. Now, when I was in high school, most of you wouldn't believe it because looking out in the room, I know probably at least 30% of you. I know a lot of people at Tunxis, and I'm proud to be your student government president. So, technical difficulties. That's okay.
So, when I was in high school...
You learned how to speak publicly, I can tell that.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I was really shy, and I'm actually a lot better without the mic. I was really shy. I had long hair, I didn't really fit in. I had some friends that were, you know, like in the metal scene and stuff like that, and I used to actually love that stuff. I've since moved on, gotten a little older, so 20. But here at Tunxis, it's a really unique opportunity because, like Professor Brown said, the average student is an exception. I think that's a great quote, and that really symbolizes all of us here. We have the opportunity to transfer and go to another college, or we can stop and start our own businesses, or pursue a different route. And everybody here at Texas brings a little bit of something to the table that at a four-year university, while they're great, I have friends there that when they're straight out of high school, I don't feel like you get that because a lot of people there are on the same path. So I think Tunxis, like so many of my peers have said, it really gives you the opportunity to stand out and to shine and to grow like exponentially, seriously, if you want to. Please don't be the kind of student that comes to college, and especially here, and just watches their classes and wants to get out. It's so boring. Yeah, there's going to be some boring professors, but there's a lot of things going on around campus that you can get involved in. There's clubs, there's the lounge, there's things like the LGBT club, Got Pride Club, that Emerson is involved in, and PTK, like Dave is involved in, and the Tunxis Sun, like Mishalle is involved in. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this. If you get involved and you make that conscious decision, hi Amanda, I see you back there. Like Amanda, she's in philosophy club. I know so many of you, and it really makes me so happy to be where I am today, coming from where I was back in high school, and to see that I can make an impact on the school too. I love it.
Michelle, do you want to take a chance with the amazing spinning microphone there?
Sure.
And the same sort of question here, your uniqueness, and whether Tunxis has helped you to fulfill it, and if we have not, what we could have done better.
I think that Tunxis in itself, again, for the third time, is very unique and diverse. But I think that the problem that I've noticed is sort of an unwillingness to change. No matter how many times that I can try and explain to someone what they say is offensive, or if I'm trying to defend myself, they don't hear it really, and they'll laugh, and they'll repeat it, and and even if they're clearly wrong, it's like, no, I'm not gonna change, and you're like, stop. But I think that when you find the right people in an environment, that can really help you foster that identity, and I think wherever you go, you're going to find that person that you can click with, or that you have similar interests or a similar identity. And though I do think that, again, Tunxis does struggle to change, more so on an individual basis than on the greater spectrum, I do think that there are people here for everyone. And I think that that has really helped me reinvigorate my identity, Not so much the entire student body, but I think that the entire student body has that opportunity in front of them, as long as they're willing to, again, listen when people say, no, this is wrong, or this is offensive. I beg you to please listen to people when they say that. That will hurt them. What you say hurts. If someone says, this is hurting me, don't argue them. Just apologize, or even if you don't apologize, just stop saying it. There's no point. You're hurting someone. They're not going to forget that you hurt them, but you will forget that you hurt them. So don't hurt people if it's intentional or unintentional. If they ask you to stop, that's the one thing that I would change about Tunxis, is just please stop if someone says that you are hurting me. Please do not continue what you're doing.
Hey, David, how has Tunxis helped you to grow as a unique individual? And has Tunxis recognized that which makes you unique? And you can take it both institutionally, as some of the students have, and individually, as Mishalle did. I mean, the institution is a collection of individuals as opposed to the institution as an institution.
As a non-traditional student, I'm 31, so a bit older than most of the people here. I'm kind of already formed. I might change some habits, eat more salads. But for the most part, I am very comfortable with who I am. On the other hand, though, Tunxis has helped me to grow by learning how to adapt. I have to deal with people who are drastically different than me, drastic, living conditions, age, life experiences. So I have definitely grown my ability to adapt.
I've learned my ability on how to adapt. It's something that you're going to have to do the rest of your life. You're going to be in different scenarios where you don't know what's going on, who you're dealing with. Tunxis has helped me to grow in that regard. Tunxis has also helped me to grow by helping me find my tribe. Ken Robinson, in his book, The Element, he's an educational expert out in the UK. He says you need to find your tribe, that group of people that you belong with, the group of people that help you to be who you are and to be better than who you are. That's how Tunxis has helped.
Okay, Becca, you get to try to do it with the microphone again. Turn it off and turn it on.
So building off of what Mishalle was saying earlier about people being set in their ways, I have a personal connection to that. When I was here for my first semester, and I was just listening to people conversing with each other and myself, they were saying words that they didn't mean to be harmful, but they were saying words like retarded. And I kind of take that personally because of the career field I'm going into right now. They don't mean it the way they're saying it, but they'll say, oh, this is retarded, or that's so retarded, and I take it personally. So I'll tell them, hey, listen, can you use a different word? It's really offensive. And most people will say, sure, I'm sorry. But then you have the people who just give you the dirty eyeball and keep talking. So I just kind of learned to let that roll off my shoulders, and I realized that people are usually not out to get you, and they just say the things that are on their mind without thinking about, will this hurt the person, or am I saying the right thing? So this semester, I haven't heard it as much, so I'm a little grateful, because I think that tugs at my heart a little bit when I hear words and terms that are offensive to certain populations.
Okay. Any other last reflections, comments, observations from the audience? That's her brother up there.
I would just like to point out that I find it really interesting that a lot of the people in this room and a lot of the people on the panel come from different places, whether that's speaking, about religion or race, or about gender or sexuality. And I think that while everyone has their own struggles, I think it's kind of nice that we can all sit here and reflect and see that we all come from a place of struggle, whether it's high school memories or, you know, maybe not personally, but seeing a friend that has the same interest as you struggle because of their race or because of being teased on for your gender or sexuality. And I think that, you know, Tunxis is personally a great school because it's small enough where sitting in this room, I don't feel intimidated by any view. We all feel pretty close. And I, personally in my experience, you know, a lot of people are very friendly and open. You know, I walked into the student lounge the other day for the first time, and the first thing someone says to me, not even knowing me, is, hey, I want to play around of ping pong, you know? It's very nice. Yet it's still a big enough school where if someone says something that does hurt people or that someone does take it as offense, you don't necessarily have to see that person ever. And I think that for the most part, you know, Tunxis pulls us closer to each other instead of away, and that most people's reactions here today has been that this is a positive place, a positive environment, and definitely a step up from high school. So I think that this is a great place.
Any other last reflections? Okay, well, it's about 2:20 now, and first of all, I'd like to, on behalf of everybody, thank our panelists. It's not easy to do this. And I think they all did remarkably well, and they're testament to how perhaps they don't see it in quite the way as the aging white male instructor sees it, the way in which the experience at Tunxis has helped people to mature and grow. And I think that they're a credit to the institution. I also think that you are too. Thank you for coming. And thank you for asking questions. And my students, stick around, and I'll bring the blue books over in just a minute.